Expect more right now. You're watching Wave 3 News.
How did 2 inmates escape from a correctional facility in downtown Louisville without a trace, caught hours later roaming free? Well, tonight we're getting more answers about what went wrong and how they pulled it off. And good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here at 7. I'm Connie Leonard.
And I'm Janelle McDonald. Metro Corrections officials took questions from the media just about 2 hours ago. The escapees got out of the Community Correctional Center around 9 o'clock last night using bed sheets to make a rope and climb out of the window. The sheet rope eventually broke, stranding Chris Cornelius on the roof and sending Matthew Johnson to the ground, hurting his ankles and back. Johnson was found in a car that his sister was driving. In all, it took about 9 hours to get both of them back in custody.
Anytime that you have an escape from a detention environment, it is critically important that the sooner that you can get on that trail of individuals that have escaped, the better chance you are to apprehend them.
In fact, a nurse can be credited with helping officials catch those inmates. She was in a nearby hospital, saw them escaping, and called police.
Wave 3 News reporter Katie Bauer has more on how the 2 were caught and what their family members had to say.
The CCC is part of Louisville Metro Corrections, but it is a minimum security facility. Usually inmates here are on work release and non-violent offenders, as was the case when the 2 men escaped here Monday night. Monday night, a manhunt after 2 inmates were able to escape from the Community Correctional Center.
I'd like to know what the heck he was thinking.
Billy Joe and Misty Johnson are mother and sister to 29-year-old Matt Johnson, one of the men who was able to get away. Metro Corrections says Johnson, along with 37-year-old Christopher Cornelius, got on the roof, tied bed sheets together, and used them as a rope to escape. This all unfolded around 9. It didn't take long to track down Cornelius. He was picked up by corrections officers just before 3 in the morning. Johnson lasted a little longer. Both men were assigned to interior work duty and were facing heroin charges. Johnson's family says it's been a battle.
It's rough. I wouldn't wish this up on anybody. We've been going through it for a long time, trying to get him help, and there's not a whole lot of help out there, especially if he doesn't show signs that he wants it.
What Johnson's family didn't know at the time of this interview is where he was found. Jeffersontown police say they assisted corrections officers in a traffic stop near the corner of Old 6 Mile and Patty Lane. Police say Johnson was hiding under a blanket in the car. The driver, his other sister, 26-year-old Sarah Johnson. Now both men are back in custody facing far more charges than they were before.
I do sleep better at night when he is incarcerated than I do when he's out. We have buried several of his friends. One day I'll get that phone call.
Both men are now being held at Metro Corrections and face felony escape. Johnson's sister was also arrested and booked in jail. Reporting downtown, Katie Bauer, Wave 3 News.
A man who helped shape the laws in Shively is in trouble with the law himself today. Councilman Ronald Wathen was arrested after last night's council meeting and charged with criminal mischief and driving under the influence. 2 police sergeants saw Wathen take thumbtacks off a bulletin board and then throw them behind the tires of another council member's vehicle in the parking lot of City Hall. Wathen then drove to his home and the officers arrived a few minutes later. Wathen was given field sobriety tests but did not pass. He will be arraigned on Thursday.
A man connected to a string of veterinary clinic thefts across Kentucky, Tennessee, and Georgia is in custody tonight. 42-year-old Timothy Gayton Ross was arrested in Knox County, Tennessee. Authorities say he hit 36 clinics overall, 5 in central Kentucky, stealing thousands of dollars in heartworm, flea, and tick medications. Those meds were then sold online. Charges are also pending against another suspect still in custody on other charges. Well, pressure is heating up on drug dealers in Wave Country.
Harrison County Sheriff's deputies took part in Operation Heat this morning, targeting a couple dozen people. And wait until you hear the message they have for other dealers.
We call it poison because we see the destruction that these illegal narcotics wreak on the homes, individuals, and families.
When you have a problem with poison, you call in poison control. A problem with drugs, the sheriff's department calls in the deputies to spread out and fix it.
All throughout Harrison County, from the south to the north. And in fact, a couple of the crimes actually took place in neighboring counties.
24 people targeted in unrelated cases, 17 arrested for selling heroin, meth, and prescription pills.
Well, I think one is too many when you got them out there selling poison into our communities.
Chief Deputy Darren Hodges says Operation Heat was just the latest success of a 4-year effort to clean the county of drugs, and that the name says it all.
That term was not given by us. That was given by inmates that are currently housed over there, because it's become quite known that our efforts from year to year is getting ready to expose a little bit of the nonsense that goes on in our communities.
As for those who haven't been arrested yet, Chief Hodges hopes you're listening.
And we're going to continue to pursue them. So if, in fact, you're not in our jail right now, go to the North Pole. We're going to find you.
That's right. The chief says the heat is on even at the North Pole. He said a lot of these investigations started because of tips called in by people who live in Harrison County. He promised to investigate all tips the sheriff's department gets.
New here at 7, Florida Governor Rick Scott is in Kentucky in an effort to lure bluegrass companies to the Sunshine State. Governor Scott in downtown Lexington today announcing plans for the expansion of Hebron, Kentucky-based company First Choice Aerospace. But those 43 new jobs will be located in Florida. The company's owner says Florida's business climate is easier to navigate for small companies. Governor Steve Beshear has not responded to this trip, but back in 2013, when Governor Scott sent a letter asking Kentucky businesses to move, Beshear called it crude and in poor taste, saying Scott used misleading rankings in his pitch to those companies.
New tonight, a health alert near Evansville. Authorities confirm West Nile virus has killed one person in Vanderburgh County. The virus has another person hospitalized. Health department officials there say mosquito control will continue in areas where significant activity or West Nile has been detected. Earlier this month, some mosquitoes tested positive for the virus in Clark County, Indiana.
The Pope has officially landed. Pope Francis is making a historic first visit to the U.S., landing in D.C. around 4 o'clock this afternoon. President Obama greeted the pontiff along with a very familiar face, Archbishop Joseph Kurtz. Kurtz, not the only Louisvillian planning to see the Pope. Tomorrow, a group from Louisville will be at the White House to welcome the Pope, including Mayor Greg Fisher. And Shannon Kogan heads to Philly later this week to cover the papal visit. Her live reports begin Friday.
Jewish holiday Yom Kippur begins in less than an hour at sundown tonight. The holiday lasts until nightfall tomorrow and is known as the holiest day of the year in Judaism. In Israel and Jerusalem this week, people practiced ancient rituals to cleanse themselves from sins ahead of the holiday.
It's the first of its kind when it comes to honoring our veterans. What made this honor flight out of Cincinnati different than any other? Plus,
burglars breaking into your car while you are standing at the pump. The warning one gas station posted that has people talking.
Well, temperatures today in the mid-80s. We're going to stay there for that first day of fall. Yeah, going our way tomorrow. And how long will it last? The answer is next.
This is a crime trend in Ohio, but it will have all of us thinking about what we do when we fill up at the pump.
A Thornton's in Fairfield, Ohio, put a message on one of their pumps warning customers about leaving their cars unlocked while they're pumping. 2 women on 2 separate occasions had goods in their car stolen while filling up with their car door unlocked. Both happened in the middle of the day, and police say women are being targeted.
Walked right up, opened the car door, took the items and left, so this probably isn't their first rodeo. The object of the theft was visible, so it's a matter of opening the car door, picking the item up and leaving.
And a lot of people will lock their doors when they go into a convenience store, but don't really think about it when they're just filling up. The police chief says the easiest way to remember is to make it a habit.
Indiana is suffering from a shortage of new teachers. Officials in the Hoosier State will launch 2 separate studies on why fewer people want to teach there. School Superintendent Glenda Ritz, a Democrat, will oversee one commission, while Republicans she's frequently at odds with will launch their own review.
It's something that's never been done before, an all-women's honor flight. The all-female group flew out of Cincinnati this morning to visit Washington, D.C. The flight honors American veterans of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam Wars. 72 senior veteran and 70 guardians flew for free to visit various war memorials and to be escorted through D.C. by a U.S. Park Service motorcycle detail. The vets will return tonight around 10 o'clock.
An unlikely friendship made out of a daily nuisance.
And how big is too big for middle school football? An investigation into the heated weight debate and if anything could or should be done about it.
Well, if you're making plans for that first day of fall or the weekend, we've got an outlook for you that I think you'll like. The forecast with some pretty warm temperatures included. How about these numbers? The Kentucky Lottery jackpots. That Mega Millions jackpot's $25 million. The Powerball jackpot, $200.
A violent game played by some of our youngest athletes. Now doctors are seeing a potentially dangerous trend.
Size differences among youth football players may be leading to an increased risk of head injury. Wave 3 News troubleshooter Eric Flack shows us these stunning images that are igniting a fierce debate on our Wave 3 Facebook page.
They drive each other into the ground even though they aren't old enough to drive. Middle school football players hitting with all the force their young bodies will dish out. At times, it's more punishment than you expect.
Afterwards, I was surprised that a middle schooler could do that much.
14-year-old Sean Harrison suffered a concussion on this hit. So is this a play?
Yes.
During an Adair County football game earlier this season.
And that's me.
Getting leveled right there.
Yeah.
And do you remember anything about that?
No.
The video was posted to YouTube by the family of the other player, a player who is listed at 6 feet tall and 245 pounds as an 8th grader. Sean's mom, shocked an 8th grader could be that big, wants changes to the rules and more protection for smaller players. Worried other middle schoolers could also be at risk.
It's not only this boy, it's not what it's about. It's about big players and older players being with younger children.
Right now, there are no weight limits in Kentucky's public middle school football leagues. In contrast, Catholic middle schools do place some weight restrictions on football players, prohibiting anyone over 135 pounds from carrying the ball or even lining up in the backfield, marking the larger players' helmets with an X, so officials know which ones are over the limit.
It seems with each subsequent decade, these kids are just getting bigger and faster and stronger.
Dr. Tad Seifert is director of Norton Healthcare's Sports Concussion Program. He says concussion rates among youth football players are on the rise. A result, Seifert says, of the increasing size disparity among middle schoolers.
That's the age group especially where you see such a disparity with size. You'll see, one 6th grader that's 90 pounds, and you'll see another 6th grader that's 190 pounds, and yet they're playing against each other.
Seifert is calling on the Kentucky Middle School Football Association to adopt the same weight limits for ball carriers that Catholic schools have.
Having some safety measures, at least at that centerpiece of the game itself, I think makes some sense.
I just would have a hard time telling a kid you're too big to play a position in football.
Middle School Football Association board member Dan Syme said they recently adopted age limits to prevent players from repeating grades to have a size advantage. But he doesn't think weight limits are necessary.
It's a tough sport. And we're doing everything we can to make it safer. But you got to understand, in youth sports, they're not hitting as hard. They're not, they're still kids.
Sean Harrison says it didn't feel like he was playing a kid. Now he's out for a month, recovering from his concussion. His mom worries about who will be next.
Oh, there's more kids that are going to get hurt. And my fear, they're going to get hurt worse.
Eric Flack, Wave 3 News.
The family of the 8th grader who made that hit that caused Sean Harrison's concussion didn't want to speak for our story. National groups like Pop Warner and American Youth Football offer middle school leagues with or without weight restrictions, so parents have options. Unfortunately, those groups don't have a big footprint here in Kentucky with middle school football.
All right, let's switch gears now to weather. And Kevin, we have seen just this great stretch of dry weather, but I guess that's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, you know, we need some rain. The fact is we're headed into our driest period, which is as we launch into fall here with no rain in the forecast. Many of us may be saying, hey, we need to pull out the garden hoses, do some watering, maybe the trees in particular. 58-degree temperature in the morning, and while temperatures are pleasant this time of year with the dry air in place, that means it warms up into the mid-80s. It's still a little stressful on the plants and trees. Take a look. Autumn begins tomorrow morning at 4:21, and if you're out and about, well, temperatures are going to quickly rise from the 50s into the 80s again. We are very dry. We're number 18, so we're not in the top 10 driest Septembers just yet, but we're only coming in at 0.8 for the amount of rain we've had so far this month. It's not over just yet. Notice around the area we have a clear sky. It's 81. The lunar eclipse is Sunday as well. Hopefully we get those clouds out of here so we can see that. So three things coming together all at once there with that lunar eclipse. First time since the late or early 80s that we've seen it. So should be kind of cool. If we can see it.
Busy weekend.
Yeah, so much going on. It's that time of year.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay.
Well, it was just named the largest pumpkin in all of North America. And now the farmer gives his secret to growing such a massive plant.
Plus, new political ads for the governor's race officially make air, but you may have trouble telling them apart. We break down what's fact and what's fiction in this reality check.
It's a furry version of an annoying neighbor knocking on your door every day.
The video, it has been viewed millions of times, and it's even sparked a friendship.
It's hilarious. Who could it be? Is it Roxy?
Yeah, this raccoon is now named Roxy. She visits a Sarasota, Florida woman every day. Susie Chin says the raccoon steals cat food from outside and then patiently just waits for more, knocking on the glass door just like that. Chin says the raccoon has been doing it every day for 9 months and will sometimes sit there for hours. Chin now sees Roxy as a friend.
The noise sometimes drives me crazy, but I look forward to her coming every day. And actually, there's been a couple times where she's been late, not getting here, and I worry about her. I love you, girlfriend.
Well, Chin hopes this video has a positive impact, sending a message not to kill or mistreat wild animals.
Pretty cute. A more than 2,000-pound pumpkin is now the biggest in all of North America. The pumpkin grew up in Illinois, taking the prize at the Cedarburg Wine and Harvest Festival in Wisconsin over the weekend. There was some serious competition, but what's the secret to coming out on top?
Lucky, dumb luck, accident waiting for it happening. It happened. I don't do anything different than any other growers do. It was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. I guess this is what I've always dreamed of. That's it, I guess.
What a dream. A 2,323-pound pumpkin from Switzerland holds the world record for largest pumpkin. My goodness.
I think I've said before, I really like large produce, so that was a fun story.
You are big into large produce.
I am. Something about it. Stick around for Wave 3 News at 7:30 with Dawn G. You're going to hear from Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis responding to those who called her Hitler and other names following her refusal to issue marriage licenses.
Plus, a bus driver under the influence running off the road with students on board and returning back to school. The reason she got caught and the charges she faces.
And a fallen trooper's father opens up and makes a push for increased protections on those who protect us.